Good evening, everyone in the room and around Europe. I'm very glad and very enthusiastic to present today SPONGEWORKS, a major challenge, which doesn't look only on upscaling simply, but upscaling on the ground. And this is an extra super big challenge. We all know why, and I will try to guide you through in the next 15 or so minutes. So, SPONGEWORKS is being implemented in 3 basins across Europe and 8 associated regions to have a wide coverage. And in Greece, we're focusing on River Pineios Basin. Why River Pineios Basin? Because it's big, it's characteristic of Greece, it's very diversified hydrologically, land use-wise, soil and water availability-wise, crop distribution and so forth. We're talking about a predominantly agricultural area with a lot of problems and issues that have been building up since mid-80s. And these relate to overexploitation of water resources, big issues with soil health, and even more issues with sustaining the ecological flow on the surface water bodies. Now, why do we want to have climate-resilient future in River Pineios Basin? Simply because we're facing all sorts of goodies that have come up with the climate crisis, from floods with very extreme events experiencing up to a return period of 7,000 years events, so it's tremendous events. And this is some more details from our ELTER observatory in Pineios, in this and part of the basin, which didn't suffer that much still. What you can see here is that in one single day we had almost 40% of the mean annual precipitation, and in 4 days we had more than 60% of the annual precipitation. And on the same time, just before that, in the core of the irrigation of the cultivation period of that year, 2023, we had a decrease of rainfall by 64% and an increase of temperature by 2 degrees. So you can imagine what this does overall to the budget and the crop sustainability and so forth. And as I said, apart from the floods, there are also droughts. So this is a very common picture in the past 5 or 10 years. We get to see it every year, if not every other year. And this is the size of the problems we face. So, going back to the big picture, the entire project, we're talking about large-scale, landscape-scale implementation of measures on the ground, and this is the big stake. And we're trying to do this in 3 basins, as I said, in the basin of Les, in France, a transboundary basin between Germany and Holland and the Netherlands, in the northwest, and as I said before, in Greece, in Pineios River Basin. Implementing 19 different types of sponge measures over about 4,000 hectares of land, more than 40 kilometers of rivers, with many consortium partners, a lot of knowledge partners that we cannot go without it, because simply we do need to make the link from the base up to the policy-making level. And of course, we have the associated partners. Some of them are in the room today, in an attempt to widen up the results. It's a 4-year project, started 18 months ago. And how are we doing it? Well, we're building on the legacy built in Pineios, and the legacy built stems from many, many different aspects. It has to do with training, education, methodological approaches, guidance, data from monitoring, and not only from monitoring, and the legacy of 2 great projects, Nexus and Lenses, that recently were concluded and gave a lot of input on how to proceed. Overall, what we're trying to do is have people implementing things on the ground, starting from stakeholders of the previous projects that have now become partners of this project, because they showed their commitment and their eagerness to do things. Overall, what we're hoping at is to come up with lower costs and higher efficiency of the use of resources. Because in the end of the day, protecting the environment goes through these routes. So, first thing first, You cannot do anything unless you know what are you facing and what are you targeting. And this goes to the challenges of the basin and as these were developed and identified in the previous projects. And surprise, surprise, as we heard virtually from every single presenter this morning, it all has to do, partially at least, with the governance. We have a very, very big gap there. Of course, we have the climate impact and then we have the WEFE challenges, as we more or less all of us know. Now, how did we come up with what are we going to be doing on the ground on the large extent we're addressing in Pineios River Basin? We didn't think it as a scientific team. We resorted to what people want. And what people want came out of self-devised solutions. You all know about this. People, farmers that are struggling to make a sustainable living, and therefore they're trying out things, basically things and traditional ways of cultivations that came up from their ancestors and that were forgotten midway through. Now these are coming back, and these predominantly, or to a large extent, are self-devised solutions or solutions that were dug up in their history books and were revived. Then we made use of the successful results we had from piloting activities in previous projects. We had volunteers that worked out, they liked it, they believe in it, and these have joined the project. Always a big thing to look at is what are the financial incentives of the farmers that are joining. There's got to be a financial incentive, otherwise the truth, the blunt truth is that they won't go for it. We did also a market search to try and find solutions that are reasonable and end up with production cost reduction, which is also a thing they are looking for. We're talking about predominantly agricultural area, we said. And of course, on top of this, we put a nice box and a nice ribbon on top, which is the scientific knowledge and support, because you cannot do without it. Demonstration sites or implementation sites, 4 different areas from far east, 1 and 2, to far west, 3 and 4. And why 4? Simply because we want to address different identities, different characteristics of the basin, and also work with different organizations, different partners that give us the portfolio of potential partners that are supposed to be organizations that are supposed to be doing this on the big scale over the country. So first one is a YAP lane. The implementer there is the municipality, the local municipality, and they're basically focusing on agroecological measures like mulching, soil water management, and managing the biomass produced along the coastal zone, which is a touristic area. Second is up in the mountain. Oops, wrong button. Sorry. Second is the Melivia Cooperative up on the mountain of the same region, where they're doing more or less the same, but on a more mountainous environment, different problems, different cultivations there. They're going basically on agroforestry, plus the reviving of terraces to control the surface runoff, the soil erosion, and so forth. Moving to the west, we have a very large irrigation organization that is working on annual crops, basically cotton. Again, agroecological measures. This includes now mulching, low tillage to strip tillage, soil water management as well, and buffer strips and hedges at the edges of the basins of the fields. Last but not least, a completely different approach in Trikala region, where what they're opting to do is to create a narrow riparian forest. And to do this, of course, they have to go through all the administrative burden, which means create the river boundary delineation, make it institutional, which is not there, unfortunately. And the last measure is the creation of a large theme park, a sponge park we call it, where it's going to be used as a hub for scientists, citizens, and everyone interested in seeing on a miniature scale how these sponge measures work. Now, how we do this? First of all, we have the 4 individual partners that are doing the implementation. We are not doing the implementation. It's them, and it's them simply because there's no way on a large scale that a scientific body or any scientific body will do this. It has to be coming out of the people that have the need to do it. And we have a development company, an irrigation organization, a municipality, and a cooperative. These, as I said before, are about the entities that most likely will be called to implement at large-scale scale. Now, these are supported by a technical company that is specializing on support and advice on works, constructions, policy making, and so forth. And these guys are supporting the implementers. Along with them, we have the knowledge partners. This is the liaison between implementation, policy making, and legal framework. And on top of that, of course, it's the 2 partners, WWFGR and us, the Institute, that are supporting and guiding the implementing partners. Of course, you cannot go anywhere if you don't publicize and you don't disseminate what you're doing. And this is being greatly done by GWP Med. Now, what we found and what we're trying to do is interact with the stakeholders. It's not something which stems out of the scientific partners and this stays in the scientific community. It has to come from the stakeholders. And that's why there is a very, very intensified and a very concrete and continuous program of interaction with the stakeholders at various different levels. First one being to develop a common understanding and a common vision for our basin. It's what they want to do and how they conceive the problem and the solution to the problem. So this includes everyone from ordinary farmers to their associations to the regional bodies, the national bodies, and we do take a lot of care and work to do on the young ages, on schools, students, because this is the next generation, and we found out that having these people on board helps a lot. So after this first phase of co-creating a common identity of the area and a common strategy to resolve the problems, comes the design of the measures and the implementation of the measures all together, not us doing it for them. So a lot of work is being done on the field, selecting the appropriate equipment, the appropriate machines, defining how exactly we're going to implement the measures, why and when. Organizing ourselves is the next step, and this is done on a voluntary basis of recruiting the people that are actually committed to do the work and implement in the years to come the actual measures that they decided as implementing partners to go for. So this is one of the areas we're implementing, and of course we need to have documents. You don't do anything without documents. You cannot convince anyone. You cannot convince the farmers or the farmers that are interested to join perhaps later on, more so the policy-making level people. So we do need a very well-organized way to monitor things from the field level up to the basin level. And this is also done at this stage, and it has gone through a very careful experimental design that tries to address all key pillars of monitoring. And we identified as such water retention, water quality, biodiversity, and socioeconomics. Utilizing and engaging anything from deep science to not so deep science, but very wide science, the citizen science, with various different methods. And going from any traditional and simplified method as writing down exactly and everything that is going on in every field through an ordinary field logbook, to cosmic ray neutron probes for average soil moisture content, to atmospheric, of course, data, to soil moisture profilers, to water quality monitoring at drainage ditches, and so forth. Next step is to assess what we monitor in order to identify if there is an impact or not, and if there is not enough impact or there is a side effect, how we can correct it. And these are some nice pictures showing graphs of high-frequency monitoring, either with the cosmic ray neutron probe or with ordinary soil moisture profilers, and also more traditional and conventional monitoring and analysis of the catch of pitfall traps that entails monitoring insects that relate to the soil biodiversity. Now, this is done, originally started to be done by the scientific teams, but the idea is that even at farmers level or the a bit upper level of the agriculturalists that control and cure the farmers, do get hands-on and are trained to identify what they see and interpret it. It's not important that we understand what's going on only, it's not enough. It's them that they need to get hands-on, identify what they're looking, and be sure that they're happy with what they see. And of course, then we need to upscale, and upscaling goes, amongst others, through modeling. And even in the modeling, we have a very good coupling between the scientific community and the stakeholders. Again, another set of engagement through a series of workshops. And we might be doing the technical work, but the approval of the outcome of the scenarios that are tested, that are first developed by the stakeholders, and the impacts that they see are to be considered by the stakeholders, and after they approve them and they are happy with the next day through those scenarios, the plan is to come up with the policy making and drafting the strategic mapping for the area. So it's a continuous iterative approach that will last until the end of the project, and we hope to end up with the right policy making that is adopted to each area. Again, the wrong button. Training, of course, as I said before, goes together. Collaboration and exchange of experiences, and this is working pretty well, not only within the basin, but across the basin. And the plan now is also to do a cross exchange between the associated regions of the project in order to gain each other from the experiences we all have. And it's not only this, it's when you exchange experiences, you realize that we are all on the same boat and face the same problems. And this is power and encouragement to move forward. Now, not to keep you too long, trying to put down things that we have on the scale and see whether we can make it or not, we identify some assets and some barriers trying to work out our way in landscape scale implementation of the measures. Starting with the good ones, we keep the fact that the local people need to survive. So they have the greatest incentive of all to remain in their area, do what they kept on doing in the past decades, and they do want to remain in the area and make a living out of it. And they need to be sustainable in order to survive. We are building, and we have built, a sphere of trust to individuals and bodies, and this is very important. People don't really accept to speak to anyone, they don't accept advice from everyone, and this is what we're trying to exploit in a good way, that they have built a trust amongst us. Demonstrating the results. No one will follow unless they see plausible results, they see results they understand on the field, on the ground. Talking about theories doesn't sell anymore, at least, to farmers, so they do need to see it with their own eyes. And this is why part of the engagement involves visiting the fields and have interested parties speak to the farmers that are actually implementing measures. We're searching for innovations, and these innovations are supposed to be incorporated and implemented through people that have a larger vision and have the courage to do it. And these are the champions. And we're using champions in many projects. And this is actually a very good way forward. You cannot engage on the same level of commitment with everyone, but everywhere there are people that are very happy to do it, and you just need to scout them. And this creates a core of believers, and this progressively expands. You have the so-called snowball effect. But you also need funding. And we're out searching and developing a roadmap for financial incentives that could support these people to make the first start. It would seem that a large part of agroecological measures and, in general, nature-based solutions, at least on small scales that accelerate the effect if you do it on a larger scale, only need an initial capital to install them and start running them. Then, these seem to be more or less very cheap to maintain, or even make the money for itself to replicate and stay there. What are the barriers we have to face? There is a great lack of capacity and a great lack of knowledge, not so much on the level of the farmers themselves, but maybe on an intermediate level. And talking at least about Greece, there is a great fragmentation in governance structures, which goes along with the low awareness, and this as a chain reaction gives us a very complex procedures due to the very wide bureaucracy. And trying to go through another route, through the nature-based solutions and the sponge measures more specifically, this really has to overcome the inertia. And inertia is a very bad thing, which you have to fight with to overcome it, especially on the public sector. People are willing to do it as long as they get to be convinced why they need to do it. And unfortunately, there's a great distrust to the system. And there is a great distrust to the system because farmers have, in the past decades, have many promises without any real outcome. And on top of that, we do have an issue with the average age of the farmers, which is increasing dramatically, and this doesn't really help to change habits, practices, and so forth. Last but not least, which SPONGEWORKS is supposed to help, and it helps really, is that we do need more widespread demo areas, because we need to spread the word with more practices. Now, trying to sum up what we found out so far is that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. The solutions, or many of the solutions, are there. We just need to do some homework in agricultural history, if you like, and see what the oldies used to do. And we, of course, need to keep on dreaming that we're going to change a few things, but on the same time, get out of our cloud and step on the ground firmly, because we do need to follow things that can be done. We need to be realistic. And of course, we need to do it hand in hand with the practitioners. The practitioners are those that are going to be doing the change, not us. We're just guiding them and providing the ground truth through data and results. Seeing is believing. It goes back to we don't have enough demo places to showcase what we're doing and what we're talking about. So this needs to be created. We need to create facts and stories that are going to be spread. And we do need to design everything with the stakeholders, simply because every single field, every single area is completely different than the neighboring field or area. So it has to be adapted, and it has to match the needs, the requirements, and the capacity of each farmer. And what is really important, and this needs to be, I think, upscaled and relayed as a message in the decision makers in Central Europe, in Brussels probably, is that we need to respect the priorities of the local people. And these priorities, unfortunately, is not saving the environment and nature. This is what we are targeting at. The top priority of the farmers is to make a decent living, stay on the rural areas, and support their families. And they can do this through cost reduction and respect of the tradition, whatever this may mean to each farmer. But definitely the environment comes afterwards. And this needs to be respected. We're talking about nature-based solutions. We're talking about reformation of the nature, yes, but this comes through specific actions that need to be respected by them. And I think that's where I finish, and thank you very much.